Recently, I finished reading one of the 2025 Sword and Laser book picks, The City and the City by China Mieville. And I dabbled with some Mieville previously. I tried a bit of Perdido Street Station, but didn't quite click with me necessarily. So, when The City and the City became a pick, I figured, okay, it's time to give Mieville another try. And I think this was the right place to come in on. It has the right degree of weirdness to it that, um, for my taste, Perdido Street Station went a little bit too far on, but still made for a very enjoyable book. On the one hand, it's a hard-boiled police procedural novel, one that most readers and general audiences in general would be, I never said sound redundant, but you know what I mean, they would be familiar with. On the other, there is a core element of the story about perceptions of reality, what we see and what we choose not to see, that requires that the reader twist their brain some. I appreciated that and enjoyed it. And like most police procedurals, this begins with a murder. Our audience perspective character is a police investigator, Theodore Bourlieu. And I apologize for mangling some of these names. The cities where this book is set are meant to be vaguely Eastern European and thus include some accent marks where I have not heard those accent marks in use in terms of seen the word and then heard it pronounced. So I apologize in advance. It means it's a fictional city-state, and thus the languages are also fictional, but the phonemes are not, and I think that bears a bit of taking a degree of taking that seriously. So, police investigator in the fictional city-state of Béziers, and the latest case to come across his desk is the murder of what we would call a Jane Doe, what they refer to as a Falana, who was dumped on the street. Well, it turns out the victim is a Canadian exchange student from the neighboring city-state of Ulcoma. Well, neighboring is doing a lot of heavy lifting there because the two cities are intertwined. They are intertwined. And the way it works is if you live in Béziers, you see the city of Béziers, you deliberately do not see, when you encounter it, the city-state of Ulcoma. You don't see the people who live there. You consciously unsee them. You are aware of their physical presence. You move around them, and avoid colliding with people or cars from their traffic. But if you don't walk into their stores, unless you go through the process of basically going through customs to go into the neighboring city, which, and this is relevant to the story, causes weirdness when you have people from outside of these two intertwined, commingled cities comes into there. As the mystery involves the fact that the murdered woman was an exchange student from the neighboring city of Ulcoma, and so now Bourlieu has to find out who dumped the body in the neighboring city. Was there a breach between the two? Because that's a big deal. And why was she murdered? And it makes for an interesting and novel concept, one which puts the whole new spin on this particular mystery structure. It's surreal but not incoherent. It feels grounded and injects the absurdity and surreality of the premise of the story without feeling it's caught up so much in conveying its particular metaphor that the cast and the world feels unreal and thus drives the reader out of the story and keeps them at a remove. Something that is distressingly common, that I would say, with works that are described as Kafkaesque, like Brazil. The act of conscious unseeing, while it seems unnatural to us, the way it's described within the work feels natural and deliberate. There are very few characters going out of their way to say how unnatural this is, not the characters acting in a way that is consciously and deliberately unnatural to the outside viewer. They describe what they're doing and the way they perceive the world, the world in which they live, in a way that that feels logical and natural for them, and so over the course of the story, you can just kind of move into it. It makes for a very engrossing book, because the mystery itself also is incredibly well done. It's a well-written, well-thought-out mystery with interesting characters and fun twists and turns, with the nature of these commingled cities adding a fun wrinkle to this as well. If there's anything that slowed my pace through the story, was less the book and more reality. Um, the world in which we live in right now is very, as I record this in the tail end of April of 2025, is exhausting. And it makes it hard sometimes to read a gritty mystery novel. But that's not the fault of the novel's reality, that's the fault of real reality. And I can definitely understand that if you're looking for this for a escape from our real reality to something that feels less oppressive and paranoid, this may not be the book that you're looking for, but I ultimately enjoyed the journey that it took me on nonetheless. I enjoyed the going through this mystery and experiencing it, and I would recommend it in that light. There is a television series adaptation of this. I have not watched that yet. I do intend to watch it, though, and once I've had the opportunity to do so, I may do a video review of that on this channel as well.
Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Tossing me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.